Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and today we are going to solve for y when we're given some standard equations, all right? Or I should say some equations that are in standard form. Now, how do you know if an equation is in standard form? That's the first thing, all right? And I should also say these are linear equations. They're not quadratic, they're not cubic, they're linear equations. Linear means that the biggest exponent you'll have is a 1. Now, you don't see any exponent 1s written, but if there's no exponent written, that means that the biggest exponent is a 1. It's understood. It's like what's understood don't need to be said. It's one of those type of things with algebra, right? So this is really x to the first power. This is y to the first power, all right? Now, we're going to take this first example and then the second example, and we're going to solve for y. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point? Why do I got to do all that? I'm going to tell you why you should do that. Standard form is cool, right? But if you want to graph an equation that is represented, or if you want to graph a line that's represented by these equations, you really want to do it in what's called slope-intercept form, all right? Slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is what you get when you solve for y. Now, what does it mean to solve for y? Solve for y means you get y, this letter y, or this variable y, all by itself on the left side of the equal sign with nothing else there. So that means we get rid of this negative 4x and we get rid of this 8. And we're left with just y by itself. Now, I'm about to walk you through how to do that. All right. Now, the first thing you do in order to get y by itself is you want to get 8y by itself first. Because we're going to do this one step at a time. We're going to get 8y by itself first. So we get rid of the negative 4x. And then whenever you're solving an equation, when you want to get rid of something, you do the opposite operation, right? This negative 4x represents subtracting 4x, right? So what's the opposite of subtracting 4x? The opposite of subtracting 4x is adding 4x. So that's how we're going to get rid of this negative 4x. And on your paper, it could look like this. Plus 4x underneath of that. And because it's an equation, and in equations, we keep everything balanced. Whatever we do on the left side, we also do on the right side in order to maintain balance and maintain order. Right? Math is all about balance. So if I subtract 4x on the left side of this equal sign, I'm also going to add 4x on the right side. So I write that right there. Now, negative 4x plus 4x cancels out. They're exact opposites. So they add up to 0, which is what I wanted. Because now that it's a 0, this negative 4x is gone. And I wanted to get rid of that, right? So now, if you want to, you can draw a horizontal line like that. I just bring the 8y down. The 8y is positive because of that plus sign. I don't need to write the plus sign, though. And then I write the equal sign. Now, pause for a minute. We can't add 24 plus 4x technically. Because some people, what they like to do is they say, oh, well, that's a 24, that's a plus sign, and that's a 4. Let me just add them together and just get 28x. No, full stop. You can't do that, right? They're not like terms. They're not like terms. That's cool, though. Sometimes you don't actually do the addition. Sometimes you just want to represent the addition. You just want to show the addition without actually doing it, right? So what I would do is normally this looks like 24 plus 4x. Normally I would just write 24 plus 4x. But because I'm solving for y and I'm trying to get to what I called earlier the slope-intercept form, I want the x term right next to the equal sign. So I want the x term right next to the equal sign. So because of that, instead of writing 24 plus 4x, I'm going to write 4x plus 24. And I can do that because the order doesn't matter. Because 4x plus 24 and 24 plus 4x represent the same value, right? But because I want this in slope-intercept form, I want the x term right next to the equal sign. Now, keep going. I said I was trying to solve for y. I'm not trying to solve for 8y. I'm trying to solve for y. So that means I got to get rid of this 8 right here. This 8's got to go, right? Now, again, when you get rid of things in an equation, you do opposite operations. So you got to ask yourself, what is 8 doing right here? 8 is being multiplied by y. And what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. So that means we need to divide by 8 right here and divide by 8 also on the other side of the equation. So I'm going to do this. Divide by 8. Boom. I'm going to do that in a second. But I want to show my work first. Then I'm going to go over here. Divide by 8. and divide by 8. So you got to divide by 8 everywhere to keep everything balanced. We got to keep things balanced when we're doing algebra. Now, 8 divided by 8 is 1. So they become 1. So that's 1y. 1y and y are the same thing. It's like saying $1. $1 and a dollar are the same thing. If you got $1, you got a dollar, right? So I got y right here. Bring the equal sign down. Now, we got to know a little bit about fractions and how to reduce and simplify fractions. I see 4/8 right here. I can reduce that. 4/8, 4 and 8 have a common factor of 2. Meaning, if I divide 4 by 2, actually, no, I'm tripping. 4 and 8 do have a common factor of 2, but we want the greatest common factor. Not just any common factor. We want the greatest common factor. The biggest common factor of 4 and 8 is the number 4 itself. See, I was messing up. So 4 divided by 4 becomes 1. 8 divided by 4 becomes 2. So now that becomes 1/2 x, right? Then we slide over here. 24 over 8. 24 divided by 8 gives me positive 3. And now I just solved for y. Like the instruction said, I solved for y. Now again, what was the point? How does that help me? It helps you because if you wanted to graph this line, all you got to do is pull out the slope and the y-intercept. The slope and the y-intercept. Now what's the slope? The slope is always going to be after you solve for y only. Not in standard form, but after you solve for y. The slope is going to be the number that's next to the x. That's going to be your slope. X is never part of the slope. A lot of people make the mistake and they'll say, oh, the slope is 1/2 x. Nah, chill. The slope is never x. The slope is just 1/2. Just the number. The number could be a fraction. The number could be a decimal. The number could be a whole number. The number could be a negative. The number could be a positive. But it's the number next to x. Right there. The coefficient of x is your slope. All right? Now, what's your y-intercept? This number at the end. This 3. So that means if I wanted to graph this, I would say b equals 3. B represents, lowercase b is the letter that represents the y-intercept, right? So I got b equals 3, and that's where I start when I graph. So I go to the y-axis. I'm not going to show you the graph here because that's not really the point of this video right now. I have other videos on that, right? So the y-intercept is 3. That's where I start. On the y-axis, I find 3 and I plot the point. And then my m, because m stands for slope for some reason, I use 1/2. That means the top number tells me how far up I should go. So I'm going to go up 1 space because it's positive. And the bottom number tells me how far right or left I should go. That's positive. So I'm going to move to the right 2 spaces. And then where I end up, that's my second point. All you need is 2 points to draw a line at minimum. Your teacher might want you to plot 3 points, 4 points, whatever. That's up to your teacher. But all you need at a minimum to draw a line that represents this equation is 3, and the point that you end up with after you go up 1 space and to the right 2 spaces. So that's just a little bit about why did we do this? How does this help us? This helps us because it makes it easier for us to draw the graph. So if you ever wondering like, why I got to do this? Why I need to solve for y for? What's the purpose of this? It's because it makes it easier to draw the graph. And we want to do things in math. We want to do things as easily and efficiently as correctly as possible. Now, slide over here. Number 2. We're going to do the same thing. 2x plus 3y equals -6. Okay? Now, I want to solve for y. First thing I do, I want to get 3y by itself. I want to get 3y by itself. So I need to get rid of 2x. This is a positive 2x. So we should be thinking, well, what's the opposite of a positive 2x? A negative 2x. So in order to get rid of the positive 2x, I need to do minus 2x. And because we're doing algebra, and in algebra, we keep everything balanced, right? Keep everything balanced. We can't be lopsided, right? We're not doing lopsided algebra. We keep everything balanced. I go over here to the other side of the equal sign, and I do minus 2x, right? Make sure you do it on the left side and the right side. Now, how do you know what the left side and the right side is? The equal sign is the divider. The equal sign is the divider, not this plus sign. You don't do minus 2x right here and then minus 2x under the 3y. No, you don't do that. You do it on one side of the equal sign and you do it on the other side of the equal sign. Okay? Now, that's with addition and subtraction. So 2x minus 2x gives me 0. Then I'm going to draw my horizontal line. This 3y comes straight down. This equal sign comes straight down. And now, just like I did in the last problem, you can't do negative 6 minus 2 and get negative 8x. Don't even try to do that. You cannot do that. That is not right. All right? Don't even try that. All right? And another thing is, I want my x term written first. I don't want to have it in this order, negative 6 minus 2x. I want my x term written first because I'm doing slope-intercept form, right? So I'm going to write the negative 2x first, and then I'm going to write the minus 6 after that. All right? So now I'm getting closer to the end. All I got to do is get rid of this 3. Get rid of this 3 right here. This says 3y, which means 3 times y, which means multiplication. So in order to get rid of the 3, I got to do the opposite of multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm dividing by 3 over here, and I'm dividing by 3 over here too. Everything gets divided by 3. So that way the equation stays balanced. Everything has to get divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that's 1y. 1y and y are the same thing, right? Then over here, negative 2/3. I can't reduce that. So I'll leave it as it is. So I write negative 2/3 x. Then right here, negative 6 divided by 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. All right. Now, if I wanted to graph this line, now my y-intercept is negative 2. Is this number at the end. My slope is negative 2/3. So I would start at the y-intercept, find negative 2 on the y-axis, boom, draw a little circle right there. Then my slope is negative 2/3. I will go down 2 spaces and slide to the right 3 spaces, draw my next point. And then I draw my line, and I'm all done. All right. So I just wanted to give you a couple little examples on how to solve for y when you're originally given equations in what we call standard form, right? Standard form because you have an x term and a y term on the left side of the equal sign and a constant on the other side. Standard form in number 2 as well, right? So thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to the page. And remember that there's all this math all around you. Peace out.